What's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and Zierlein dropped a mock draft a few days ago. I'm a little bit late on this, but I've heard that this mock draft is very questionable with a lot of crazy picks. So I had to get my reaction out for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, coming in at number one, looks like he has the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. I think a lot of the draft community is in agreement with this. Not so much Bears fans, but the draft community kind of agrees that Caleb Williams needs to be the pick here. Kind of reset the quarterback clock, reset the financial position of the Bears, because you're going to have to pay Justin Fields tons of money, and Bears fans seem to want that, but I don't know. I can't get on board with that. So Caleb Williams is the right pick here, in my opinion. Moving on. Oh, we got the Commanders taking Jaden Daniels. So passing on Drake May and taking Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels has been getting hype, nothing but hype this draft season. And I mean, if he continues to rise up boards, I could see him going number 2 over Drake May, just because I feel like Drake May's kind of been a quiet name this draft process so far. Like, obviously everyone knows Drake May's good, but you don't hear much about him. At least not from my experience. So I mean, Drake May does have a lot of hype behind him. Dan Quinn might want the more dual threat-ish quarterback. Drake May can also, run the ball as well, but Jaden Daniels is on like a whole nother tier, so maybe that's what Dan Quinn might want more. But I mean, I don't know. I'd still rather have Drake May there at 2. Moving on to 3, we got the Patriots passing on Drake May. Interesting. Because maybe most people consider Jaden Daniels the third quarterback in this draft, and some even consider him, a top 10 pick, not necessarily a top 3 pick. So I understand it if the draft goes Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, and then maybe the Patriots pass on Jaden Daniels at 3 and take Marvin Harrison. But passing on Drake May at 3 is a bit hard to believe for me. But I mean, Marvin Harrison is probably the best player in the class, but positional value and stuff, knocks him down a bit. So I don't know. That's a bit iffy for me. Number 4, we got Rome Odunze to the Cardinals over Malik Neighbors. Whoa, this is a pretty crazy mock draft. So I mean, I like Rome Odunze. He's grown on me. During summer scouting, I had my concerns with him, but I mean, Rome Odunze is a top 10 player. I don't see how some people prefer Rome Odunze over Malik Neighbors. I get that Rome's a bit bigger and a more prototypical type of player, but Malik Neighbors is just so good, man. I mean, there's hardly any holes in his game unless you want to nitpick that he is only like 6 foot 6'1". But I mean, I like the pick. I like the wide receiver pick for the Cardinals. But if Marvin Harris is off the board, I think the Cardinals got to go with Malik Neighbors. But that's just me, I guess. Number 5, we got the Falcons, I guess, trading up. Yeah, trading up with the Chargers to take Drake May. Wow. So a lot of people have the Falcons getting Jaden Daniels, if any quarterback in this class, just because it seems like Caleb Williams and Drake May are locked in. Like, no one can get them besides the Bears and Commanders. So, I mean, hey, if Drake May falls to 5 and a team trades up for him, I don't care what they give up. That's probably going to be a good trade and a good pick. So Falcons get their quarterback, and I guarantee you Falcons fans would love this because they would get a quarterback that can disperse the ball to their talented playmakers, and then they got a new coach this offseason. So I think that's a win for the Falcons this offseason. Moving on, we got the Giants passing on Malik Neighbors and taking Talise Fuaga. So I disagree with 2 things about this pick. One, I disagree with the position. I think with how the board's fallen so far, I think the Giants should, run to the podium and take Malik Neighbors. But if that's not the case and they do take tackle or offensive line, I'd much rather have Joe Alt and then maybe Olu Fashanu. Talise Fuaga and Olu Fashanu are kind of, neck and neck for me right now, but I want to see what he says about this. Fuaga is one of the finest pass protectors in the draft, as some see him as a guard/tackle. He gives the Giants flexibility with where they can play Evan Neal. So is he saying that this could potentially move Talise Fuaga to guard? Either way, I'd much rather have Joe Alt, but I don't even like the offensive tackle pick here. I'd much rather have Malik Neighbors since he's still on the board. but it is what it is. Moving on to 7, we got the Titans taking Joe Alt. There we go. I love that pick. Joe Alt is the best tackle in this class, and I almost always have the Titans going tackle. They have a very questionable offensive line. They have Peter Skoronski from last draft class. Why not add another really good tackle and Joe Alt and have that left side kind of shored up? I agree with that 100%. Now we got the Chargers, who traded down, taking Terrion Arnold. I don't have Terrion Arnold as my number 1 corner. But besides that, I mean, they could have also took Brock Bowers. I think this is a more likely offensive pick than a defensive pick. And with Brock Bowers still on the board, with them trading down and then still getting Brock Bowers, I think that's the no-brain move. But if you want to take a cornerback, I would much rather prefer a Nate Wiggins, a Cooper DeJean, and I mean, after the Senior Bowl, maybe even a Quinion Mitchell. I'm a bit lower on Terrion Arnold than the consensus, but I think there's better players in the cornerback class. Moving on to 9, we got Malik Neighbors going to the Bears. See, this is a popular Rome Odunze pick, just because a lot of people have Rome Odunze as their wide receiver 3. But if the Bears can get Malik Neighbors and Caleb Williams in this draft, I can't see how Bears fans can be mad. I mean, you get your potential franchise quarterback with your potential franchise wide receiver in the same class. I mean, sign me up for that. Moving on to 10, we got the Jets taking J.C. Latham. Olaf Ashanu's still on the board, so one, I agree with the tackle pick. I just don't agree with who they're taking here. Olaf Ashanu is a much better prospect in my opinion than J.C. Latham, but I mean, if they're going to go tackle, I understand this. So let's see. The Jets must find a way to protect Aaron Rodgers next season. Latham can help in that regard and also bolster the team's running game with a crushing drive blocker. I mean, J.C. Latham is a very good run blocker, but I mean, Olaf Ashanu is, he's still good. I mean, Olaf Ashanu's got way more upside than a guy like J.C. Latham, and I mean, they're arguing about Aaron Rodgers and how he's only got 1 more year on his, basically in his career, but I'd argue that Olaf Ashanu would come in and play better year 1 than J.C. Latham as well, so I'm not sure about that pick. Moving on, we got the Vikings taking Jared Verse. I like that pick. The Vikings need an edge rusher just because Daniil Hunter's getting up there in age. I believe he's even a free agent. So, edge rusher, I like the pick. Jared Verse, I lean towards him being my edge 1. It's between him and Dallas Turner, so I like that pick a lot. Moving on to the Broncos, and the Broncos taking J.J. McCarthy. I think I even might have done this in one of my mocks recently, so I can't say I disagree with it, but I think this is what the NFL would do, not necessarily what I would do. If anything, if the Broncos are taking a quarterback, I would take Bo Nix here, but that's just me. I do think J.J. McCarthy's going in the first round, and I could 100% see this happening, although I wouldn't agree with it. Moving on to 13, we got the Raiders taking Byron Murphy. And I know that there's a lot of hype with Byron Murphy, and I mean, I'm even hopping on the train, but I don't think he's a top 15 player yet, and I also think if the Raiders are going to take someone on the defensive line, I get that they just drafted Tyree Wilson, but I mean, Dallas Turner's still on the board. I still like Jerzon Newton more than Byron Murphy, and plus I think with Nate Wiggins and Cooper DeJean still on the board, I would take one of those over Byron Murphy as well. So I don't know. I just can't get on the Byron Murphy train, at least not this hard. Moving on to 14, we got the Saints taking Leatu Latu. So I'm guessing Zierlein's a bit lower on Jared Verse. But, I mean, I like Leatu Latu. I think he's the most talented edge rusher in the class as of right now. He's just got a little bit of a lower, ceiling. But he's got tons of pass rush moves, and he's going to get to the quarterback year 1 without a doubt. Moving on to 15, we got the Colts taking Brock Bowers. And, I mean, if Brock Bowers falls to the Colts at 15, they're going to take him 100% of the time. Just getting Anthony Richardson another weapon to throw to is, in my opinion, priority number 1 for the Colts. And so I don't necessarily see Brock Bowers falling to 15, but if he does, great pick for the Colts. 16, we got the Seahawks taking Dallas Turner. And I like this pick a lot. I mean, I don't necessarily see Dallas Turner falling to 16 again, but if he does, the Seahawks are gonna run to the podium and draft him. I usually like going edge rusher for the or for the Seahawks. It's either edge rusher or guard for me. So Dallas Turner's in my opinion, a top 10-ish player in the class. So getting him at 16, great move. 17, we got the Jaguars taking Quinion Mitchell. Like I said, Quinion Mitchell had a really good Senior Bowl, so he's going to be moving up a lot of people's boards, and you're going to see him a lot in this top 15 area. So he's not necessarily my cornerback 2 like he is for Zierlein, it seems like, but he's at least top 3, top 4 for me. So Jaguars getting Quinion Mitchell, I like the pick. 18, we finally get Olu Fashanu. I mean, there's a lot that could happen between now, February 9th, and in April. There's a lot that could happen in between here, but I'm willing to bet my bank account that Olu Fashanu does not fall to 18. That's just not going to happen in my opinion. Again, a lot can happen in the next 2-3 months, but I just have a hard time seeing this happen. So if it does happen, great pick for the Bengals. I even had in my last mock draft the Bengals trading up with the Bears to take Olu Fashanu at, 8? So, I mean, I like the actual pick, the pairing, but I don't see the Bengals getting Olu Fashanu if they don't trade up in the draft. Moving on to 19, we got the Rams taking Nate Wiggins. I like this pick a lot. I think the Rams need basically the best defensive player on the board, as long as it's not a Jerzon Newton / Byron Murphy, because they got that defensive tackle spot kind of shored up with Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner. So I like the pick here. I agree with it. I would either take Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean. I just think Cooper DeJean just seems like a Ram. I like to call Cooper DeJean the Cooper Kupp of the defense. So I would probably pick Cooper DeJean here, but you can't get mad at a Nate Wiggins at 19. Moving on to pick 20, we got Amarius Mims. This is basically everyone's pick. As long as Amarius Mims is still on the board at 20, he's going to the Steelers, just because his teammate Broderick Jones was drafted to him last year. Why not get the two teammates, for years to come? So I'm guilty of doing this pick a lot to the Steelers in my mock draft, so I can't get mad at it. 21, we got the Dolphins going Graham Barton. I agree with the guard / tackle pick. Troy Fautanu and Jackson Powers Johnson are still on the board. I'd much rather have one of those guys. I mean, if anything, I would like Troy Fautanu here, just because he has a lot more tackle guard flexibility than a guy like Graham Barton, in my opinion. So Graham Barton would be my pick here, and my secondary pick would be a JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, the center / guard out of Oregon. So I like the offensive line pick, not necessarily the guy I would have taken. Moving on to 22, we got the Eagles taking Quilly McKinstry. Again, a lot of Eagles fans seem to not necessarily like this pick because they think they have cornerback depth. But I hate to break it to you, besides Darius Slay, you really just have a bunch of backup corners. So I don't really think Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, I don't think any of those guys are starting caliber guys, at least not next year. I think if you get a guy like Quilly McKinstry and if you bring back James Bradberry, I mean, that's a really good secondary to me, even though James Bradberry is extremely inconsistent. But it is what it is. I like Quilly McKinstry here a lot. Moving on to the Texans, we got them going Chop Robinson. I haven't seen Chop Robinson in a first-round mock draft in a long time. I mean, I'm not necessarily in agreement with him going round 1, but he does have tons of upside. And if the Texans do lose Jonathan Grenard in free agency, I mean, you gotta get an edge rusher, and Chop Robinson has all the upside in the world. He just hasn't quite put it together yet. So I'm trying to think who's still on the board, at least for the edge rusher position. And you got guys like Darius Robinson, Chris Braswell. I mean, yeah, if you're gonna go edge rusher, Chop Robinson's not a terrible pick. I don't like him in the first round that much. Moving on to 24, we got the Cowboys taking Troy Fautanu. Again, I like the offensive line pick for the Cowboys. And I like Troy Fautanu here. You could go, tackle and go with a guy like Jordan Morgan, who's still on the board, and who else is still on the board? Tyler Guyton's still on the board. But if you want to go interior offensive line, I like the Troy Fautanu pick a lot. And that way you can kind of decide if you want Tyler Smith kicking out a tackle or if you want to try Troy Fautanu out at tackle. So you got more of a flexibility there. So I like that pick a lot. 25, we got the Packers going Tyler Guyton. And I'm not the huge I'm not the biggest Tyler Guyton guy in the world, but he had a solid Senior Bowl. He put his athletic traits out on display. The thing with Tyler Guyton though is he just scares me a lot. He's nowhere near as polished as you would like a first round tackle to be, but he's got all the things you can't teach, which is length, athleticism, stuff like that. So I don't mind the pick here. If they are going to go tackle, Tyler Guyton's the pick. Moving on to 26, we got the Buccaneers going Ennis Rakestraw, and I'm trying to think. Cooper DeJean, I think, is still on the board, so I would 100% go him. And even if I don't know if cornerback's the best pick here, I mean, Braylon Trace is still on the board as well as the edge rusher position, so I'd probably have the Texans going Braylon Trace, if anything. But with Braylon Trace still on the board, I would take edge rusher over cornerback in this position, just because the cornerback depth is pretty solid in this class, and I think the Bucs could get a cornerback in the second round. Maybe a guy like Kamari Lassiter, or I'm trying to think, maybe a Mike Sandstro, even though he's more of a slot. But I mean, someone like that would be a little bit better in my opinion, just because Ennis Rakestraw is a fringe first round for me. I'm not too excited about Ennis Rakestraw there. Moving on to 27, we got the Cardinals taking Jackson Powers Johnson. I like the pick. Jackson Powers Johnson needs to go in the first round. I think he solidified his spot as a first round player. And just, revamping that offense is a great idea for the Cardinals. Getting Romo Dunze and then a offensive lineman, perfect match for me. I like to go defense with this pick, but with JPJ still on the board, I'm not mad at it. Moving on to 28, we got the Bills taking Brian Thomas. Wow, Brian Thomas is still on the board. Yeah. Get that Gabe Davis replacement. Brian Thomas is a perfect replacement for Gabe Davis. I just don't know if he's going to be here at 28, but if he is, great pick. 29, we got Darius Robinson. Yep, I mentioned him earlier. He had a really solid Senior Bowl. He's moved into the conversation of the first round, but the only way I see him going first round is if there's a massive run on edge rushers in the first round with guys like Chop Robinson, Braylon Trace, and even a Chris Braswell going. I think it would be hard to get Darius Robinson in the first round, at least as of February. So again, Braylon Trace still on the board. I'd much rather the Lions take him. And I think Cooper DeJean's still on the board, so I would like the Lions taking Cooper DeJean over edge rusher. Moving on to number 30, we got the Patriots trading up into the first round and getting Bo Nix, who they're trading with the Ravens. So yeah, I mean, I don't like Bo Nix, in the teens of the first round, but late first round, Bo Nix, perfect pick. So that makes sense with them passing on Drake May and going with Marvin Harrison, getting that blue chip prospect, and then trading back into the first round and getting a first round caliber player, although he's not on the same tier as a guy like Jaden Daniels and Drake May. So, I mean, I like that. I like that a lot. Does it say what they give up? Top receiver. No, it doesn't say what they give up. I assume it's a first round pick or something like that next year. I'm not too sure, but I like it a lot. 31, we got the Chiefs going Roman Wilson over guys like A.D. Mitchell and Troy Franklin. I mean, I think he's trying to showcase the people that had, solid Senior Bowls, because I can't get down with Roman Wilson in the first round. He had a very good Senior Bowl, but he's an undersized receiver. Chiefs need a number one type of receiver, a guy like Troy Franklin, A.D. Mitchell. So I don't know. I like Roman Wilson in the second round, but even guys like Ladd McConkey on the shorter end of the spectrum, I would still rather have Ricky Pearsall. So, I mean, Roman Wilson rose up my board, but he didn't rise up that much. And then ending things off, we got 32. We got the 49ers going Jatavion Sanders. So we do get a second tight end in the first round. I don't see Jatavion Sanders going in the first round a lot, if at all. So, I mean, I like it. It's a refreshing pick. George Kittle isn't going to play forever. And also, Sanders isn't a great blocker, but he can beat man coverage and makes tough catches. He could provide Kyle Shanahan with a unique size matchup for his offense. So, yeah, I mean, they could play a lot of two tight end sets. George Kittle lined up with his hand in the dirt, and then having Jatavion Sanders more in that slot position. Kind of maybe taking a Jawan Jennings role. So, I'm not too terribly mad at that. I usually go tackle for him, but I'm not mad at the tight end pick. And then, yep, that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think of Zierlein's mock draft. Let me know what you guys think of my opinions of the draft. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. And as always, I'm the Draft Nerd, and thanks for watching.